Welcome to Casino Skunk Secret Society Live. I'm Ralph, and with me is Mark. Mark, we're talking
Hey,
about Shazam: Fury of the Gods.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, what is the book?
Oh, Trials of Shazam.
Cool. I don't think I've read that one. Who is that? Is that Jeff Johns?
Uh, Judd Winnick, Howard Porter, and Mauro Casicoli.
Awesome.
Probably messed up a bunch of their
Awesome.
last names.
It's funny. I know more about like Captain Marvel, the serial from like the 40s, than I do the comic book character.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not a huge reader. I do read some comics, and I did read some of Jeff Johns' run on Shazam. I think I read like the first two arcs that he did around the time of Blackest Night and New 52, somewhere in there, somewhere in the late aughts. But I mean, I like have to get like the gist of the character, like, and when I saw the movie, the first one, which was what, like 6 years ago, something like that,
Yeah.
I fell in love with it, and we talked about that,
Yeah.
and um, I was a little bit anxious about a second one because I was like, oh man, the first one's so magical and it's so filled with heart, and Black Adam was not. Black Adam was one of the noisiest, like, cynical. I don't know if cynical is the word, but it left a
Yeah.
real bad taste in my mouth. I really didn't care for it. I didn't have any sort of sympathy for The Rock. I don't care how much they try to tell in his backstory that we should sympathize with him. Um, he was just angry the whole time and just went around killing people and punching stuff, which is fine. But there's got to be something that like connects you to your main character,
Yeah.
and it didn't really hit for me. And then when this movie was coming out, um, they had like two trailers, I think, and a lot of it had the same footage. And I was really, really, both Stevie and I were really anxious going in because we loved the first one so much, and I've seen it countless times. Um, and I was afraid. I was really afraid, even though I trust David Sandberg and Zachary Levi and everybody else involved. I was like, oh, man, I don't know. It just looks like Black Adam. It just looks like fighting dragons and CG stuff. Like the first one was so grounded and such a obviously lower budget superhero movie, and it had a charm
Yeah.
to it. And I was afraid that they had this bigger budget, and with the way Black Adam turned out, I'm like, I hope the studio didn't sway them into making just like this big over bloated mess. And I don't think it did. I think it was still full of heart, and it was still really fun. What were your initials like? What did you feel like going into it? Were
Yeah.
you nervous at all? Well, you liked the first one a lot, right? Probably not
Yeah.
as
A
much.
lot like I
Maybe as much
think
as me. I don't know.
for me that the first one still is because I think it's what that's considered the DCEU, right?
Right,
That one.
Henry
So
Cavill,
I
sure.
Yeah, so I think that one for me is still probably my favorite of like the what's considered like the DCEU films now.
Mhm.
But yeah, I liked that one a lot just because I think like we talked about it when we did that one too, was that it kind of felt um, it had a lot of heart to the movie,
Mhm.
and like I know like the first one was called basically like big, but with superpowers.
Right.
So
Yeah.
which kind of fits that. But yeah, I like we were both fans of Chuck when that was on too. So
Mhm.
just like kind of like a fan of like Zachary Levi's like delivery for humor and stuff like that. So with this one too, I was kind of anxious to see what they would do with it, because usually with sequels too, you don't have to do as much of like the setup and
Right.
getting to them like in the suit and whatever for that.
Mhm.
Uh, so you can just like jump right into the story. So I liked
Right.
what we got here in the beginning of that, to kind of like the status quo almost, where um they were kind of bored with what they had already been doing for like these like past 2 years, like within the
Right.
world since the last time we saw them. So
Yeah, they
yeah,
took the Rock of Eternity and turned it into like a clubhouse,
Yeah.
with just all kinds of like just junk, like video games and Christmas lights and bing bag chairs and stuff. But I mean, that feels right.
Yeah.
And they took a bunch of signs and spelled out lair, which is great. All you know, a callback to the first one. But I do like that this one never felt like it strayed from the original. It felt like a natural progression for 2 years
Yeah.
passing. I like the fact that at the end of the first one, we were so excited because you have the whole Shazam family and they're on the news and everybody's loving them. And in the last 2 years, they've been trying, but they keep messing up. And so they became known as the Philly Fiascos, which just like it's nice seeing that, like, you know, superheroes aren't perfect and these are kids. So they're like extra not perfect. Um, and I like that it wasn't just like, oh, we're the best. Like there's still something in there that connects you to them. You know, they're not flying around being like these gods. They're flying around and they're doing fine. They saved like everybody on the bridge, but the bridge completely collapsed. And I mean, I don't think that's their fault. They did everything they could to keep it, you know, uh, suspended, but they're not engineers. You know, they
Yeah.
can only do so much. And I like that. I like that they're not going around being the Justice League. They want to, and they feel like they should get some sort of respect like the Justice League, but it's just they're not, they have no training. They're not
Yeah.
immediately good at this stuff. Um,
I even like
and
how like Eugene is trying to like meld the basically like
the girders
the
or
yeah the like yeah like the
the
cables of the
right,
bridge to one another to and then he just sees them spiraling apart again and just is getting like just kind of like agitated like there's like no point to it almost.
right.
uh, and with what you're saying there too, I really liked it because it highlights especially kind of like the tone of these movies too is like when Billy comes in and saves that woman in the car. He's like, are you
Yeah.
really listening to this song as I'm saving you right now?
Right. Right. And that's the kind of stuff like like the trailers really didn't have a lot of the sort of humor that's in the movie, which is another thing that I got afraid of, that they weren't going to have any humor at all. And it was
Yeah.
it was like the tone of the trailer didn't fit the tone of the movie. It also didn't fit the tone of the first film. I feel like the trailer was just too serious. And for anybody who hasn't seen it, there's a ton of humor in it. There's a ton of heart. Uh, uh, Freddy, even though he gave atomic wedgies to the two bullies in the first movie as Super Freddy or as Shazam Freddy or Adult Freddy, um, they still beat him up. They still beat him up, and they bend his cane or his. So it's like these guys still sort of getting beat up and looked down upon, was kind of nice because I feel like with Black Adam, he was a bully. Like I
Yeah.
feel like Black Adam was a bully. He was going around just destroying tanks and military vehicles and just like throwing guys into the air. And it's like, oh boy, I know this is. I wouldn't take my family to this. And I feel like with the trailer, if they showed more humor, because who knows how many kids went to go see Black Adam just to see like The Rock be mad for 2 hours and kill a bunch of people. Um, I don't know if that kept people from seeing Shazam, but I wish they would just. I wish the trailers were more sort of reflective of what the movie was, because I really there was times where I teared up. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of heart, and there's stuff in this movie that was like telegraphed, like tropes, things we've seen like time and time again, where Billy's not calling his foster parent mom,
Yeah.
and as soon as that's set up, you know what's going to happen by the end of the film, and then it happens at the end of the film, and you still get like teared up because it's done so well.
Yeah.
It's done so well. I've heard some complaints about people saying that oh boy, Asher Angel, is that his name?
Yeah,
Um his performance seems disconnected from Zachary Levi's, which I guess I could kind of see, but they laid it the groundwork in the first film so well where it felt like the same character. Like I didn't have any problems with it this time around. I was like, we
yeah,
know that Billy has the weight of the world on his shoulder, and when he's Shazam, um, you know, he's got power. He can do things he can't normally do as average teenage boy. So of course he's going to be sort of a little more cocky,
yeah.
probably have a little bit more fun. I think a Zachary Levi is playing it a little more like it's a nervous energy. Like I'm just a kid and I can relate to being a sad teenager, but now that I have these powers, like, oh, I kind of have a little bit of confidence. And it feels like anytime he's like dealing with someone like Helen Mirren sitting at the table, like it's almost like a nervous energy.
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
He's kind of like faking it until he makes it, almost a little
right,
bit.
right. But then at the end, when he's like, oh man, we'll talk about that in a bit. But when he's on his own without his family, like he's like pretty much lost. But he's like, I'd rather do this without hurting you guys. A kid who in the last movie like pushed that family aside, wouldn't do the all hands on deck at the dinner table because he didn't want to deal with that kind of. He's not a guy who um, has a family. He doesn't trust anybody. He's definitely feels like he's on his own. And for this one, for him to sort of uh, sort of block his family out so that they're okay is like it's good stuff. It's moving stuff, and I mean, I have no problems with any performance in this movie. I don't have a problem with the story or the characters. Um, I, I found out that this was written by Chris Morgan. I had no idea that Chris Morgan wrote this until after I'd seen the movie. And if you don't know who Chris Morgan is, he's essentially wrote almost every single Fast and Furious movie, which is all about family. And there's a
Yeah.
Fast and Furious line in there, which is kind of funny.
Which, yeah.
But
I have a question. If within the DCU, does it follow the
okay,
last section of hero rules, where because Helen Mirren is in the movie, does that mean within the DCU or in the Fast and the Furious movies is
I had that.
Deckard Shaw's mom played by a different actress?
So here's the thing: I had the exact same problem with Chuck. So Chuck had a Tron poster on his wall.
Oh yeah,
And then later on, Captain Awesome's dad was played by Bruce Boxleitner, who played Tron. And it's like, I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Like none
I
of
believe
this makes sense.
I think
So it's
Digimon Hansu was in the Fast and the Furious movies too.
yeah, he was in 5, I believe.
Yeah, so the wizard is also.
I didn't even realize that the Wizard and Helen Mirren.
It's pretty
And I
funny.
don't know if I don't think anybody. I think everybody else is in the clear. But there's one thing where this is still part of the DCEU because we see Wonder Woman, and it's Gal Gadot, and we also know that Peacemaker is in the DCEU because of Ben Affleck was in Suicide Squad 1, and Harley Quinn came over to the Suicide Squad movie, and there's definitely like Amanda Waller and stuff.
Yeah.
So the dude at the beginning, and I don't know the actor's name, he is running stuff at the museum.
Oh
He's the
yeah.
guy that
The
talks about the staff being broken up. He's in Peacemaker as a janitor. And
oh yeah.
so I'm like, that's even more like inside stuff. Like that's like I'm assuming you can talk about multiverse and stuff, but I feel like that this should all be taking place in the same world. So I'm assuming it's like it would be a twin brother. Maybe after Peacemaker, he got a different job um, on the other side of the globe. I don't know, but it's really funny that they did
Yeah, it
that.
looks like
And
it's a
then
different character. I checked the name. It looks
Right.
like he Jamil in Peacemaker, and then Dockett in
Do they
Shazam.
have last? They don't have last names for.
No,
Maybe
so
they have the
yeah,
same last name.
so there you go. They're just twin brothers.
Okay, but then you have David Sandberg, who directed the film. His wife dies in the first movie, and she's the woman in the car listening to the song "I Need a Hero" in this one.
I,
So again, I was kind of hoping like she had a picture on the dash of her and her sister, her twin sister. Um, but I mean, she's in all of David Sandberg's movies. So, I mean, who cares? It's all
I
fun.
noticed him in this movie too. He's running away from
Yeah,
some
he
of the
gets
like
taken
mythical
out.
creatures. Yeah.
So your son's a little bit older now, and I know when the first Shazam came out, parents that I know had sort of issues with like the boardroom scene where the seven deadly sins come in and throw Savannah's dad out the window.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, he gets like eaten, but another board member gets thrown out the window. Maybe his brother gets thrown out, like a head gets like eaten off and stuff. Like it was really like kind of hardcore, scary stuff. And this movie has some more scary stuff like sprinkled throughout, like the opening scene where everybody gets turned to sand or clay
Oh yeah.
was pretty intense. And then when the all the sort of classic uh, sort of Greek legend monsters like the Cyclops and the
Like
is
the
it a
harpies and
griffin? Yeah,
oh
the
yeah,
harpies. What's the lion
yeah. I
with the
think that's a
wings and
griffin.
and the is
I
it?
was gonna say hippogriff, but that's Harry Potter.
Yeah, but it has the one it has the scorpion stinger. But
Yeah.
so yeah, when that stuff happened, David Sandberg got like picked up by a harpy and just dropped from the sky. And Dietrich Bader, holy
Oh yeah.
cow, that poor
Yeah.
guy. What
That
like
made me feel really bad. I was like, he just
yeah,
came up there to check on him, and then he's gone.
Lucy Liu just made him walk off, and she says, "Oh, I love they still pop when they fall," and it's like, oh my gosh, like it's funny because it's like it's a kids movie, and I feel like Patrick's definitely old enough for this kind of stuff. It's not
Oh
probably
yeah.
not a big deal for him, but I mean, younger kids it might be a big deal. But then I think back to my childhood and when I was a kid watching movies like Beastmaster was PG, Poltergeist was PG, and those movies scared the crap out of me. Those movies were scary, and the kids swore, and like in Goonies, kids swear.
Yeah.
Monster Squad, kids swear, and so seeing this and seeing all that like sort of dark imagery and violent stuff and the kids swearing, I'm like, you know what? I feel like kids could use a dose of this.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me. Like I'm not a parent, so I don't care. Like I'm like, yeah, I used to get scared, so why can't kids get scared now? But
Yeah, because this kind of
we
fits like that tone of like at least like in that way of like 80s films where like even like late 70s and then throughout the 80s like movies like that, just because like a PG movie in like that time would essentially be a PG-13 movie nowadays. But it
right,
was like Jaws is like PG.
right,
But yeah, just because of like what you're saying there too, with like how it's kind of like this like two sides of the spectrum like within the movie, because you have like the really fun like upbeat kind of stuff, but then you also have layered in like, because David Sandberg does like a lot of horror movies, like layering
right.
in like the mythical creatures, and then like making like the unicorns in this even like super like dark and kind of
Aggressive.
like aggressive,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah,
liked that stuff, the unicorns too.
but it doesn't feel like it feels if the tone, it's like there's two definite tones. There's a family film with a lot of heart, and there's like this horror, like monster movie, and somehow it still works. They still blend together. So when you have these awful unicorns all hiding in the dark shadows of this like burnout carport, like parking garage thing, and they're evil, and you're like, man, these unicorns are gonna jack up these kids. Like, I don't want to see these unicorns jack up these kids. But then the way the unicorns are thwarted, which is, you know, product placement, but like the
Okay.
best product placement
Yeah, I
used,
liked that.
where she throws the Skittles to stop them in their tracks, and she says, "Taste the rainbow." Like, I'm like, you need that. You need that. I went to a screening of Willow a couple of years ago. It was pre-pandemic, or it might have been like, yeah, it was pre-pandemic. And um, Ron Howard came up and talked before the movie, which is amazing. If you ever see
Nice.
Ron Howard in person, like, you're like, oh, that's cool. But then when he starts talking, you're like, oh crap, that's really Ron Howard. Like, that voice is unmistakable. So he came up before Willow. It was like a great, like, 70 millimeter print. It was like from 1988. It was all beat up. It was
Oh man.
amazing. Um, but he asked the audience, which had a bunch of kids in it, like, how many kids have seen it, how many kids haven't seen this movie. They raised their hand, and he said, okay, just so you know, you're going to see a lot of scary stuff in here, but don't worry, the good guys always win. And I was almost like, oh man, just let them sit there for 2 hours being completely anxious about, you know, giant rat dogs and
Okay.
trolls and stuff. Because the thing is, when I was a kid, that stuff left a mark on me and it scared me. But now, after, you know, it made me intrigued. So, you know, I kind of, at the same time, where I'm like, maybe Shazam's too dark at moments, but at the same time, like, we'll all get through it together. And then that's like the point of the movie,
Yeah.
is like, we're a family. Go see it. No kid's just going to go see it by themselves. If they need to sit in their parents' lap and, you know, hide their eyes at points, then that's fine. But usually, you know, it's like the scary ride. It's scary leading up to it, and it's scary being on the ride. But when you're done, it's like you feel like you've accomplished something,
Right.
when it leaves an impression. So I kind of dig the scary stuff, just because. And I'm not a horror fan, but I just like it because it's, you don't see a lot of sort of family movies pushing it that far, because it gets pushed pretty far. There's some brutal stuff in the movie, but I think you need someone like Zachary Levi
Yeah.
to sort of
Kind of
let
like
let
the
people know that everything's okay. I'm, you know, um,
and
he's just a joy. He's
yeah.
such a joy.
And the actress that plays like the youngest sister, Darla, uh, I liked like her portrayal on this, both as like the, you know, like the younger version as well as like the superhero version.
Right.
Um, and I don't think you still watch the CW Flash, but on that
Mm-mm.
there's a character that plays like Iris and Barry's daughter,
Mm-hmm.
Jessica Parker Kennedy, and I feel like that actress and this actress have like the same kind of like vibe to them, as far as like how they play these characters, like kind of like bubbly, upbeat, like
Yeah,
like
positive.
yeah, positive. And I like how like everyone else was super scared of the unicorns, and
The right.
she just like trusted that they were going to be good, and because of that, like they actually had the help of all the unicorns in that to take out like the other like mythical creatures and
But,
stuff.
and what's great about it is it was set up. It was set up that she goes around sticking Skittles in people's pockets.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. The fact that Billy's about to turn 18 and will have to be on his own without the family, be out of the foster system and stuff. Like, I liked a lot of that stuff. I like that we had a conversation. It was Zachary Levi having that conversation as Shazam, because I feel like you need to bridge those characters, or the two versions of Billy, um,
Yeah.
together, and seeing him as Shazam, but still being vulnerable about, you know, he can do anything. He could fly anywhere. He can, you know, has super speed and strength and lightning and all these powers, but he's still concerned. His major concern is losing his family that he has come to love. And I think that's it's so good. It's so good. It's just a ton of heart. I love that. Also, they nail home the fact that the wisdom of Solomon
Oh yeah.
uh, in Shazam, I think it's the first S is Solomon, and he's still a kid. He doesn't have like the confidence. He's not really book smart. He's street smart, but it's helpful to have Eugene and everybody else around to kind of help him along with these things. Um, they almost like bring him up, like they raise his level, and he kind of feels that way too. When Freddy starts going off on his own, he kind of feels like he you can tell he really doesn't want to lose his family, which is like it's I don't know. It's so funny because the first movie he doesn't want them at all. He doesn't
Yeah.
want them at all. And in the
I
last
just
2
don't want
years,
to
the
lose.
time away from yeah, and the time away in the last 2 years, he's grown to like really depend on them. Um, and it's great that the parents, the foster parents, sort of suspect something's up when out of nowhere they all decide that they're going to go out to play because it's a nice day. And then on the news they see the Philly fiascos during their bridge rescue. um the foster dad starts counting
He's like, wait.
counting the fiascos, and it's like, wait a second, is it? And then they pop back in. So that stuff was kind of cool. And the reveal when they do Shazam in front of them, it's such a great moment. And I liked that the parents had something to do. They
Yeah,
did what they did best, was transporting kids around in a van and,
the
and
battle
helping
wagon.
people. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Then they're like, "Is this why we have so much like lightning strike damage to our house?"
right, right. Which
But
you got to get out of the house before you say Shazam.
yeah,
But I thought that was really funny. The they were great. They were really, really great. I'm hoping I mean, I don't know if they're going to do more of these. The kids are getting pretty old. Um,
yeah. That's a
but
question I had too, because the actress who plays Mary in it is
yeah,
just both
right.
Mary and I guess Mary Shazam. Well, I think in the
Yeah, it used
comics
to be it used to be
she's like
Mary
Miss
Marvel.
Marvel, or yeah,
She's
like
Mary
Mary
Marvel.
Marvel.
Yeah, but
Um,
and that's another thing is I just in the last in the last movie they were saying every name possible instead of Captain Marvel
yeah,
because everyone knows like the whole situation with Captain Marvel. And then in this movie we finally get to hear Captain
okay.
Marvel, right?
Yeah,
I think
and
I was screaming too loud in my head to hear it, but I could have sworn he said Captain Marvel.
yeah,
And what was
the
his name? Michael
I,
Michael Gray,
I had
right?
to look. Yeah, Michael Gray. Yeah, I had to look it up again, but I liked that he who played Billy in the like the 19 was it 19 like mid 1970s TV
70s.
series
Yeah.
uh, got to call Zachary Levi as Shazam, Captain Marvel.
Right.
I read something
And
too
he's wearing
where
the outfit too.
oh yeah, he's like straight up still wearing like what he had on his Billy in the show. I read
Yeah.
something where David Sandberg I think had like a talked with I don't remember who he talked with, but he like where they had like a whole conversation about them using the name Captain Marvel in the movie, and they're like, why can't we use it? Eternals said Batman and Superman and that and
Yeah.
Alfred, so like why can't we say the name back and forth as long as I guess it's not like on the poster saying
Right.
Captain, so then you're still
I
good.
think it's a thing also. I think it's a thing also in comics. You can refer to him as Captain Marvel in the comics. You just can't. It can't be the title of the book.
Yeah,
I believe that's the case. Um, but I mean, I've known him as Captain Marvel for so long because of the serials, and but it was nice to see him say Captain Marvel, and he wearing the same outfit. for a while. I don't know if it's on HBO Max, but I had oh boy, what was it called? DC, was it DC Unlimited? Was it,
Yeah,
no, what was it? The app? It was the app that
yeah, it was
had
DC
like,
Unlimited or DC
yeah, where it had like
Universe.
DC Universe. I think it was DC
Yeah.
Universe. It had DC Daily, and but they had that '70s Shazam on there, the whole series. I think it was 2 seasons, and they used two different people to play Captain Marvel, but it was the same kid roaming around in a Winnebago, him and a mentor that he called Mentor. It's a really fun show. I highly recommend it. I don't know if it moved over to HBO Max when they took over, but it was on DC Universe. It's
I
probably
know
available somewhere.
I know Warner Archive sold a physical copy of it too, because I got sent a physical
Yeah.
copy back when the first movie came out, because they kind of put it out at the same time to be like, if you liked this, look at this.
Yeah,
So
Warner Movie Archive is great for that kind of stuff.
yeah,
They put out some fun stuff, like when Justice League came out. I think they put out the Legion of Superheroes. It was like two
okay.
specials. Um, but yeah, that '70s show. If you get a chance to, well, not the '70s show. If you watch, if you get a chance to watch the '70s Shazam show, it's like a half hour. It's like half-hour episodes, and it looks like it was shot at the same places they shot Chips. Um, and it's real corny, but it's like 2 seasons. There's two different Shazams, and it's really campy, and it's really fun. It feels like an after school special with superheroes, because he was
Yeah.
always solving like kids problems and like wayward kids, but there's also some bank robbery type stuff. But he was great. He was great.
Yeah.
Michael Gray, I remember him from an episode of Brady Bunch. He's in an episode of Brady Bunch where he was dating Marsha, but I don't know. They were getting jealous. Marsha was working at a I think it's Hinckley's ice cream shop,
Okay.
and she was working too much, and she sort of kept ignoring him. And he one day came into the ice cream shop with a different girl, and Marsha dumped ice cream on him. And I'm like, that's awesome, because he's Billy Batson.
Not funny if it
A
was
big
actually a crossover.
hair. I mean, he didn't have the outfit. I wish he had the outfit. The red sweater with the yellow
Oh yeah, like piping like on the
piping.
sleeve.
Yeah.
That was funny.
But yeah, I guarantee you that me and Stevie were the only people that knew who that guy was in the theater.
Yeah, I had to lean over to who I was with and be like, that's the original Shazam from the 1970s. They're just like, oh man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was that guy in the theater. I was like
The Leonardo DiCaprio meme.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
but yeah, like the other kind of thing I really dug in this movie was the chemistry between Jack Dylan Grazer and Rachel Zegler.
Mhm.
Like with him as Freddy and her as like the youngest daughter of Atlas, Anne or Anthena, because
Yeah.
I liked like their whole dynamic in it, just like how they were playing off one another, and because I enjoyed her a lot in West Side Story the other year, Spielberg's movie, so I liked seeing her in this too, and I thought she got a chance to be pretty funny in this, like with all the scenes that she had in here. One of the things that they did that I thought like they were just gonna like keep and like they weren't gonna give her the powers back by the end of the movie was when Lucy Liu as her sister like takes her powers away and it like makes her human. I thought that's how they were gonna kind of like make it okay that she was like thousands of years older than Freddy, because I liked how they made that joke too with Billy being into Wonder Woman and Freddy being into her. Like, what's with our sons being into older women? But I thought that's how they were gonna make it like okay, because like, oh, she's a human now, so now she actually is this age, so
Right.
now it's okay that they're together.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Not,
She seems fine.
Yeah.
The scene with them on the rooftop, where he like gets up to leave and then comes back as like adult Freddy. All that
Uh,
stuff was kind of fun.
yeah, that was very
Seeing him trying to get closer to her.
Superman the movie, uh,
Yeah,
Lois Lane and Clark and Superman esque.
and Clark. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, only Diedrich Bader didn't die in Superman the movie because of it.
Jeez Louise, I was really hoping that someone would get there in time to save him.
Yeah,
But it's
like, oh,
so
all right.
heartbreaking because Freddy like just lost his powers,
Yeah,
and it was just like kind of that was even more horrific that he felt so helpless, and
yeah,
his arc was a lot of fun. Um, with him without his powers and getting sort of transported to this like afterlife realm thing with the wizard,
all right.
and their back and forth
Oh, or he
was a
kept
lot of
like calling him
fun.
the wrong name.
Yeah, I kept calling him like Jeff and stuff. The but it's funny that Freddy only knows the wizard based on what Billy told him. And for them to actually meet face to face and him being like, "Oh, you are real. That's, I thought you died." And it's like he's like, "I'd rather be dead than spend eternity in here with you." And that whole relationship, like, it's such a weird dynamic to have those two running around this labyrinth. Um, but it was really entertaining. And then Freddy deciding that he'd be the one to go steal the golden apple
Yeah.
with his squeaky crutch, and he's
Oh yeah, I like
rolling
the how
around.
with his like creaky knees too.
Oh yeah. Because both me and Stevie laughed really loud at that because anytime I get up from the couch, my knees like pop like nuts. Like my knees are so bad, and he just started crunching his knees. I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty accurate to my knees. But such a weird, such a weird pairing of characters, but really entertaining. Rachel Zegler came into those two guys, and like just like a great like group of people to sort of like be sort of this team in
Yeah,
that realm. I really enjoyed all of that stuff. I thought it was a ton of fun, just a ton of fun. I can't say enough about this movie.
yeah,
Lucy Liu, Rachel Zegler, and Helen Mirren together, I thought were terrific. Um, there's almost like a Sanderson sister vibe to them, where they were like they're all powerful and they're all bickering and stuff, and they're like some infighting, almost like a Three Stooges type of a
oh, yeah,
thing. But they were pretty deadly. Like they didn't they weren't riding around on vacuum cleaners.
yeah,
but but I did like that. You think Helen Mirren's like the leader, she's bad, which she
yeah,
is. But then once Lucy Liu starts like sort of straying from the plan that they were doing,
yeah,
like whoa, they were like pump the brakes, and she just kind of went off the rails. It was kind of nice. I like seeing Helen Mirren turn.
yeah.
Rachel
I liked how she
Zegler
had like a
seemed
very specific like code to like what like it was still like she's still. I mean, it wasn't she's
right.
kind of in a
She's
gray
doing
area, but
bad
she still had
stuff.
like a very specific code to what she wasn't gonna go over and what she was
Right.
planning to do.
She still did kill all those people in
Yeah,
the museum and Dietrich Bader, but for the most part, it was her focus was I need to get the staff, I need to get the powers, I need to get the apple, I need to plant the seed. And they did that. They got all that stuff, but Lucy Liu's like, no, we're gonna plant the seed in Philly. And that's when they were like, oh, this isn't good. Like we have everything we have in this realm, and we can live happily ever after in this realm. But Lucy Liu was so bent on revenge that you know she became like the villain of the three villains. And Rachel Zegler was like kind of like not even on board like from the get go. She was already like charmed by Freddy and stuff. That's Sylvie. Sylvie wants to be on the show. That's fine.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I thought they were great villains. And and it was wonderful. I thought it was wonderful. Now, I want to talk about this dream sequence, which at first I didn't know was a dream sequence, but
Oh yeah,
the fact that we didn't see Wonder Woman's face, I thought was hilarious. Because in the
yeah.
first movie, they tried to get Henry Cavill and it didn't work out, and so they just didn't show his face.
Yeah, so
And
just
for
leave
them
that.
to, yeah, but for them to do that during this whole scene with Wonder Woman, I was like, this is hilarious. This is really funny.
Yeah, I
And
liked how they
then
really leaned into it.
yeah, and then when she walked away with her back facing, I'm like, is it actually her? Like, is this gonna be like, we got you, we fooled you because you thought it was gonna be another Superman thing, but we actually got Gal Gadot? And she turns around and it's the wizard's face, like astral projecting onto her body, and I was like, holy cow, this is nuts. They're really like playing off of this joke that like none of the actors from the Zack Snyder movies want anything to do with this movie. And so I thought that was great. But then at the end, when Wonder Woman does come to to the realm, to Billy's grave, uh and they still do several shots from behind and several
Yeah,
shots where you don't see your head in the frame, and I'm like, oh man, dude, can they get away with this whole scene doing this, because this is amazing. But then they showed her face, and I was like, all right, cool.
see,
I guess it wasn't supposed to be her.
that was one thing I
Oh, did I lose
that
you?
like in a TV spot.
Yeah, so a couple days before the movie came out, um David Sandberg posted something about there being a spoiler online, and if people decide to seek out this spoiler, then that's fine. If they want to do that, it's better to go in cold. So like we saw it Friday night, and we I just stopped. I decided to just do a total like Twitter shutdown, so that I wouldn't be spoiled. I assumed it was a cameo. I was like, oh, maybe we actually get Superman's face. I didn't. I was like, there's going to be somebody from another movie in this, and they clearly that got out, and I didn't want to know who it was. And so when I saw Wonder Woman in the dream, I'm like, okay, this is it. This is the Wonder Woman. But then they didn't show her, and so I'm like, okay, they got me. And I was waiting for the dome, for like all the Justice League to be outside the dome, like they couldn't penetrate it,
Oh
and
yeah,
they watched Billy do a sacrifice, but that wasn't the case. But it was good seeing Wonder Woman, and with DCEU, being what it is and the state it's in, and I can't wait for the Flash movie, because I feel like we're gonna get some of the existing DCEU to continue, like the Waller series and stuff like that. But it'll be nice to be able to see things shaken up so that both, like, all of it matters. Like, I'm
yeah,
hoping that like we get like Christopher Reeves, and we get Ryan Reynolds, and we get, we're already getting Michael Keaton. I'd love to see Linda Carter show up. Bring Michael Gray back. Like make it so whatever DC thing you're into, whether it's CW or whether it's Filmation, uh, Justice League, whether it's Super Friends or Captain Marvel serial, make it all matter. Like we saw in Spider-Man No Way Home,
yeah,
like we saw that everything can go and coexist and still matter. You know, so if you're a fan of Zack Snyder, like Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot are still important to the history of DC. So I'm
yeah,
hoping that, in a future DC movie, we could see Zachary Levi as Shazam, alongside, the Justice Society or the Justice League. If Gal Gadot still wants to be Wonder Woman, let's keep that Wonder Woman. If Jason Momoa wants to be Lobo, now he's Lobo. He, in Earth 1 or whatever Earth Zack Snyder's in, like that's what Aquaman looks like. And then maybe in Earth 2 it's somebody else, and Jason Momoa is just Lobo. Like it doesn't, like, I'm a James Bond fan, and there's all kinds of crazy like there's like not continuity. There's canons. There's like stuff that's like the canon is like jumbled. Like when Judi Dench is M for Pierce Brosnan, but then also M for Daniel Craig when it's his first mission and stuff. Like stuff doesn't really mesh.
Oh yeah.
But James Bond fans have come to learn, like, the bad guy in The Living Daylights 2 movies later is a good guy in Goldeneye. Joe Don Baker. He 2 completely different characters in the same series about the same guy in apparently a single timeline. You have Maud Adams, who played the man with the golden guns girlfriend, and then 3 movies later played the main character Octopussy, who is like the main villain, I guess. It's up in the air. But so for like being a James Bond fan, I'm like, hey, we like James Bond. James Bond's the good guy. He's a spy, and let's see these adventures. It doesn't matter that Felix Leiter's been portrayed by like 8 different guys. It just doesn't matter. It's different people play different things. When you read a comic book, Jim Lee's Batman looks different than Todd McFarlane's Batman, but it doesn't matter because it's just Batman. So for me, it doesn't matter if it's Ben Affleck doing Batman or Robert Pattinson. Like, it doesn't matter. It's Batman, So when I do see the same actor in Shazam that I do Peacemaker, it's like, I've seen artists who draw different characters in different books and they look identical. So why can't that transfer over to live action? So I'm hoping Zachary Levi gets to play around in some future stuff with the Justice Society. Speaking of Pierce Brosnan, like,
oh yeah,
he was great as Dr. Fate, and just let's have him let's just do whatever. Because I like Ben Affleck as Batman. But I just read news today that Clayface is going to be in the Batman 2, and it's like, cool. Give me all of it. I don't care. It doesn't have to tie in. Every single comic book in Marvel doesn't tie into every other comic book. It doesn't have to tie in, and that's what I like. So give me 3 different Batmans. Cool. Give me a Pattinson, and then let's go and make a 3rd Batman movie with Michael Keaton. Get Tim Burton to come back. Make it Batman Beyond. Who knows? Do whatever. Let's go. Let's people figure it out.
Yeah. They kind of did some of that with when like the CW did the Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they tied in like some actors from like the Keaton Batman movies, and then they even had like Ezra Miller meet Grant Gustin in that as their 2 different versions of the Flash. And I think it's still like a rumor, but I think Grant Gustin is supposed to also
appear in Flash,
in the Flash movie.
I hope everybody shows up. I want I'm not kidding you. If Ryan Reynolds shows up as the Green Lantern in Flash, I'm all for it. I don't care if Halle Berry's in it as a version of Catwoman. Like, this is a great way to do like a redemption for some of these things. Like, make a cooler version, make it the version we wanted to see. But Linda Carter was in Wonder Woman 84. Like, let's see her as Wonder Woman in Earth 77.
That would be cool.
Let's see Earth 66 Batman. Let's see these things. Let's just let Zachary Levi have his fun. Let everybody else have their fun. No one's saying that James Gunn's taking Snyderverse away. It still matters. But people were like, well, why should I see Shazam if the DCU is going away? Because it's a fun movie. That's why.
Yeah.
Why did you go see Rocky 3 because it's a fun movie. Whether there was a, you didn't know if there was going to be a Rocky 4 or not. You just go to see movies because they're fun, not because they have to tie into something later down the road. It doesn't matter. You don't know that it's not going to tie into something down the road.
Right.
You know, I didn't avoid seeing Dark Knight Rises because I knew there wouldn't be a fourth. You know,
Yeah.
like what's the difference? It's still a fun movie to watch. You know, Bane was nuts, but it's like I don't understand the whole why even bother if the story's not going to continue, because the Shazam movie is a self-contained story. It does not. It's the first one was a self-contained story. It didn't rely on you having to see the Justice League or Man of Steel or anything like that. So it never made sense to me how people are getting sort of bent out of shape about the DCEU not continuing when the Flash movie is telling us everything matters. Look, here's Ben Affleck, here's Michael Keaton. That's already telling you like these the Tim Burton movies from 89 and 92 or whatever like matter just as much as Ben Affleck. So why wouldn't Shazam matter? Everything matters. So hopefully this Flash movie, I want people to see this Flash movie. I want it to come out. Heard it's amazing, but I wanted to just show everyone like, hey, listen, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy is like just as valid as literally any other version of Batman you've seen. Like, I like Robert Pattinson. I thought that movie was amazing. I can't wait for the next one, but I also can't wait for the next Keaton Batman.
Yeah.
And I like to see Affleck as Batman. Like, it's like, why complain? You can have 3 different Batmans in production at the same time. Just because you like Zack Snyder doesn't mean you can't like these other things too.
Yeah.
They're good. They're really good. They're really good. So yeah.
And you already kind of brought it up, but I enjoyed the mid credit scene that we got with Amelia Harcourt and Johnny Canamas, like who are like part of like that Peacemaker gang. And Amelia Harcourt was also in Black Adam too. Mm-hmm. Like, and they're doing stuff for Amanda Waller. So it seems like that's how they were trying to tangentially kind of connect the stuff together. And then I liked the whole joke where she's like the Justice, and he's like, League? She's like, no, Society. And he's like, what's the Justice Society? And then he's like, why is there 2 different teams with the word justice in the name? Isn't there like a whole bunch? And then he like makes like an Avengers joke in there.
Yeah.
But I liked all that, which apparently that was already in there like before like the like kind of like dynamic change over at like DC. Because I guess like the movie was like delivered back in October because it was supposed to come out back in like November or December.
It's supposed to come out like a few different times.
Yeah. And then like almost like a self-referential joke post-credit scene with Savannah and Mr. Mind, basically almost like the same exact tag from the first movie.
Right.
And he's like, oh, I'm a worm. It takes me a while to squirm around. And he's like, I forgot one thing. I'll be back.
Right. Which is a great joke if they don't make a Shazam 3, and it'll be great if they do. I don't know if they will, but I mean, it's great to see Mr. Mind show up with like, I think he's like, he has to do with like the monsters of the 7 realms or something. Like he opens up like 7 realms with monster. I don't know what it is. But like just the idea of Mr. Mind and the fact they put it in a movie is wonderful. And the fact that they got Mark Strong to come back just to do this pretty corny scene. But it seemed like everyone who worked on the first film loved it so much and they were happy to do the second one. So it was great seeing Mark Strong, who also was Sinestro. So let's have 2 Mark Strongs in the Flash movie. That'd be terrific.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Is it? And then Kingsman isn't DC, right?
No.
Okay. I was gonna say you could even have like another Mark Strong in there too.
Just keep having Mark Strongs. He hasn't popped up in the MCU, right?
Not as of yet. but
Yeah.
there's still time.
Right. Right. Do you have any other thoughts on Shazam? Fury of the Gods? I mean, I don't know how much longer it's going to be in theaters, but I think everyone should go see it. It's
Yeah,
great.
I mean, I agree with that. I would say don't pay attention to Rotten Tomatoes. Don't pay attention to the box office.
This movie does not deserve like what 52% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
Like, there's no way. There's no way that makes any sense whatsoever.
and also there's plenty of movies that I know anyone watching this absolutely loves that probably has a 15% or 12% or 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, but you still love that movie and you loved it before you saw what the score for it was on there.
Yeah.
Just because they're older movies and now have been retroactively kind of placed on Rotten
Yeah.
Tomatoes. But yeah, I would say if you enjoyed the first movie, you'll definitely enjoy the second movie. It's just as fun as the first movie. It has like all the uh, it's I would say it's for older kids, or I guess mileage may vary depending if you're going to bring your family to it. Sylvia agrees, depending on all that, because I mean parents know their kids more than other people
Right.
know their kids, so they know what their kid
When
can handle.
I Ghostbusters 2 came out in 89, so I would have been 12 when I saw that. And there's shit in there that'll turn you white. They're but like the heads on the spikes in the train station and stuff, like that's like pretty hardcore stuff for a 12-year-old, and I came out loving that movie. so it all depends on the kids. I feel like if I was like a 13-year-old boy and my mom dropped me off at the theater like I did when I was a kid, I'd love this movie.
Yeah, I'd
I'd
agree
love
with
it
that.
because it has an edge to it, but like an edge, what a 13-year-old thinks edge is, you know,
Yeah.
it's just and it's the best monsters. All those, the Cyclops and the Griffin and the Minotaurs
Oh yeah.
and Centaurs, Minotaurs,
Yeah.
or just they look straight out of like a Ray Harryhausen movie, and I really loved it. You know, I love, and then the dragon that was like made of
Oh, like
tree
wood.
bark.
Yeah.
It's just like, and then Billy calling it out on it, like,
Yeah.
you breathe fire. What are you doing? This is an awful design. Um, but I mean, it's wonderful, and I mean, who knows how long it'll be in theaters? If you don't catch it, it'll be on HBO Max soon enough. Gather the kids around. If it gets too scary, they can, go hide in the room until the scary stuff's gone. But
Yeah.
see it, see Shazam.
Yes.
It's great, and it'll probably be the last one you get, unfortunately.
And if
But
anything,
I'm
they'll at least probably incorporate the character into like other DCU stuff.
yeah,
If he doesn't have, or if they don't continue to have like their own series, I can see them being like just interwoven into other
right.
stories, because James Gunn is good at doing that with like how he
And
can
like
do that,
the thing is, like, not in a million years would I ever think there'd be a Shazam movie,
or a second
let
one.
alone two really good ones. So if it's only two, great. At this point, I'm like, you know what? If you do a third, you might be pushing your luck, and it might be the bad one. Just we're good. I'm good. I'm good with these two. I can watch these two over and over again, and I probably will. I'll buy Shazam on iTunes when it comes out. I don't right now. I don't have HBO Max, but I'll just buy it.
Okay. I
Yeah,
have the first one just off screen, like right here too. So
it's great. It's great. Um, Good stuff. Thanks for joining me.
yeah, thanks
Anyone
for asking.
who is watching this before Friday, what is that? The 1st, the 31st.
Yeah,
We're gonna
31st.
be doing Geeked Out Life 2 Mandalorian review of chapter 21. You guys from the Holdo Pod are
Yeah,
showing up. Have you watched the episode yet?
I have not watched it yet. I'm gonna watch it after you and I are done doing
Have
this.
you
So
gotten spoiled on anything?
I just know the title of it.
Okay,
I,
yeah.
I just know it's called The Pirate.
Yeah, there's some like there's just so much cool stuff in it, dude. I think you're gonna love it. I really think you're gonna love it. Go watch it. Go watch it. But thanks for joining me, everybody. Thank you for your support on Patreon. And until next time, I'll just catch you guys. I don't have a sign off. Do you have a good sign off that I can use?
Thank the maker. Shazam. The there you go.
Shazam. Yeah. That's great. I like that. All right. Thanks, Mark.